This is the online lecture to accompany Chapter 15 in your textbook. I highly recommend you read Chapter 15 as it contains many important ideas, concepts, and particularly examples that I simply don't have time to address. You can stop, pause, and replay this lecture as often as you wish. Let's talk about informative speeches. Speaking to inform is one of the most important skills that you can develop because public speaking to inform occurs in a wide range of everyday situations. There are endless situations in which you might need to inform others, particularly if you're going to go into education or become a trainer or just be in a situation where you need to train or inform others. So this ability to give knowledge and understanding is going to prove very, very valuable to you. So there are 3 criteria that you need to consider when you're trying to be an effective informative speaker, that you really do need to communicate accurately, clearly, and make it meaningful and interesting to the audience. Now there are 4 basic types of informative speeches. Speeches about objects, speeches about processes, speeches about events, and speeches about concepts. So let's look at each one of those in turn. The first type is speeches about objects, and when I say objects, I mean anything. Something that is visible, tangible, stable in form. So if it exists, you can give a speech about it. Speeches about objects can use a variety of organizational patterns. If you're talking about the history or evolution of an object, then that might be in chronological order. In this case, this person is talking about the main features of an object, and he or she has arranged them in spatial order. However, most informative speeches about objects will fall into topical order. So, if it exists, you can give an informative speech about a pencil. You can give an informative speech about the universe. Those are tangible, real things, so you can talk about them. And for purposes of speeches, people are objects. So you can talk about a person, their life, or what they've done, or who they are, or describe them. Those are also object speeches. Another kind of informative speech is a process speech, and you've actually already given a process speech, and that's a demonstration speech. Speeches about processes explain how something is made, describe how something is done, or tell us how something works. And so there are actually 2 types, and like I said, you've already done the first type, the demonstration speeches. That is a speech in which you show the audience how to make something or how to do something. But there's another type of process speech where you explain how something works. A jet engine, a water treatment plant. You don't expect us to run out and create a jet engine or build a water treatment plant. You just want us to understand how that process works. But they're both process speeches. Then there are speeches about events. Speeches about events can deal with any kind of happening or occurrence. Anything that happens or is regarded as happening, and it could be a historical events, such as the Civil Rights Movement or the Civil War or a battle or something of that nature. Or it could be things that happen regularly, like Mardi Gras or the Olympic Games. Or you can even talk about things that might happen, like earthquakes or the Mayan apocalypse. Oh, well, that didn't happen, but you could still talk about it anyway. And the final type of an informative speech is a concept speech. Now, these are a little bit harder to grasp, but they're conveying information about abstract subjects, like beliefs and theories and ideas and principles. So there's a couple of examples here, like nonviolent resistance. What is that? What are the components of that? What is the theory of evolution? Define gravity for us, or talk about Marxism. So these can be a little bit more difficult to explain, but they can also be very, very interesting. So if you're discussing concepts, you really need to avoid technical language and define your terms clearly and make comparisons, use examples to make these things really come alive. The lines dividing all these types of speeches, object speeches, process, events, concept speeches, they're not absolute, so yours might kind of combine several of those different types. So there are a couple of guidelines for effective informative speaking. You really need to be wary of overestimating what the audience knows. In most cases, people are only vaguely knowledgeable about most topics. So you really have to explain your ideas thoroughly and clearly. On the other hand, do not treat them as if they were 2 years old and have never heard of this topic. Most people know a lot about a few things and are just vaguely familiar with a lot of other things. So if you go from that idea, you'll probably be okay. You definitely need to find ways to relate the subject directly to the audience. Informative speakers have to realize that what is fascinating to them may not be fascinating to everybody, so it's your job to get the audience interested and to keep them interested. And you should definitely avoid being too technical or abstract. Don't try to teach us something that is beyond, not necessarily our capability, but beyond the time limit, or be too vague with us. So be descriptive, clear, understandable, compare, contrast, definitely personalize your ideas, and be creative. And finally, make sure you choose a topic for your informative speech that is of course interesting to you, that you can make interesting to the audience, and you need to be able to accomplish that in 4 to 7 minutes. And particularly for informative speeches, I think students have a tendency to jump right in and do something that, because they care about it, they'll jump in with a controversial topic. But really, I would back off. Do something less controversial, because those tend to lend themselves to persuasive speeches. So if you have a particular viewpoint about something or feel strongly about something, I would save that particular topic for your next speech. Do something fun and interesting that's going to spark our thought process and get us interested and keep us interested in your topic. This is the end of the lecture to accompany Chapter 15.